Welcome to a first edition of Kb3 Sports, the podcast where we talk about the game of the week. And this week's game is the North Shore Mustangs versus the Woodlands Highlanders. Well, we know a bunch about those two teams. We've all been associated with those two teams, so it's going to be a great conversation on this podcast. We've been doing this a long time, guys. We've been doing this decades. And I know we've got great information, great knowledge of the sport. Now, let me ask you this. Z, you went to the game last year, North Shore versus the Highlanders. Mm-hmm. What was your take from the game?
Well, obviously, North Shore was extremely impressive. They jumped out on the Woodlands, and the game was over at halftime. So it really wasn't much of a contest in last year's game. But the one thing you could say about the Woodlands, that was a team that early on they struggled, but as the season went on, they got better.
They did.
And you saw how they played in the third round of the playoffs. They lost to Duncanville, but they went toe-to-toe with Duncanville. Yeah. So I think the Woodlands team that you saw early in the season is totally different than the Woodlands team that we saw at the end. Yeah. And so therefore, I think this year's Woodlands team will be different.
Yeah. Now, Keith, you've had some experience with not only North Shore and the quarterback they have in Caleb Bailey, but you've also had some familiarity with the quarterback at the Woodlands and maybe Montois. Speak to us about the two quarterbacks and the difference between both of them.
So Mabry is super smart. Mabry can move, and he's really big. Caleb Bailey is probably one of the smartest quarterbacks that's ever played with me in 7-on-7. There were times when he made throws and just made decisions that made me think that his level of play is really, really high for being in high school. Like, I was very impressed with him, with the decisions he made whenever he played on our Kb3 Elite team. And I'm looking forward to seeing this matchup. It's going to be a great matchup.
Yeah. And to your point with Caleb Bailey, what stood out to me in those games that we watched and he played for us is his poise. He's calm under pressure, calm in the pocket. Nothing seemed to rattle him. But we also have experience with actually the growth, and we've seen the birth of Mabry, because we were there when Mabry was a receiver. I thought, to this day, I still think he could be a dominant receiver. If something should happen in the quarterback position, he could still be a dominant receiver, tight end. Guys from Oklahoma I know have played quarterback at Oklahoma and then transferred into playing tight end in the NFL. I can't recall the guy's name right now, but I know we've had that happen at Oklahoma. But, this matchup between these two quarterbacks is going to be key. But I also know that they have some skilled guys at North Shore that can turn the game. That played with us also at Kb3, and they can turn the game over quick. Chris Barnes is one that comes to mind right off the rip.
Terrence Guillory.
Terrence Gilliam.
So now as we talk about it, though, guys, we're both saying that both of these offenses are high-powered. So I guess my question is, which offense will score the most points?
What's your prediction? What you think, Keith?
I think that North Shore is probably going to win this one. I think that they have too many weapons on offense. I mean, we had, C.J. Barnes played with us. Terrence Guillory played with us. I think 4 or 5 other of their players played with us. And, those guys are good. Those guys are major D1 good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, we've seen C.J. Barnes last year take a screen pass and take it to the house and just nobody even be able to touch him.
Right.
Terrence Guillory, not very many people can hang with that guy on a deep route. So those guys are good, and the quarterback's a stud. So, now Mabry's good too. Mabry's got some weapons. And Mabry,
who does Mabry have as a weapon?
Well, we got Cornell X.
Cornell X, yes.
So that's probably one of his biggest weapons. You also have the transfer, Keandre Barker, who's a Penn State commit.
Okay.
You also have the offensive line. They have 3 of their offensive linemen who have D1 offers.
Okay.
So from a physicality standpoint, that offensive line is good. And when you look at North Shore, probably their biggest deficit is going to be their defensive line. The defensive line is young. But one thing we know about North Shore, they never reload, never rebuild. They just reload. They just put in the next man up. Yeah. But the fact that they've got these young players, we just have to see how they play.
Yeah,
right?
No doubt. They have some new corners as well. One of their best corners is Devin Sanchez, who's a 5-star, I believe. He's going to be a junior this year. Man, you talking about impressive. You're talking about a kid that passes the eye test. Man, he's got it all. He's got the footwork. He's quick twitch. He's long, he's rangy, and he's smart too. And he's been coached by one of the better personal trainers out there in Ja'Cory One Way. He's out there coaching him, and he's also a North Shore alum, Kb3 alum as well. But one thing that I think of when I think of North Shore, they've got a good running game too.
No question.
Don't you have some history?
Yeah.
With the running game?
DeAndre Hardiman, he's definitely the truth. He's going to be a junior this year, and you go back to the Westlake game last year in the playoff. He made a huge play. I think it was like 4th and 4. They were on the +40, and he got the ball and hit it out and took it to the house and really broke that game open.
Broke it wide open.
And so you're definitely going to be looking for a breakout season for him going to the next level. However, once again, for them, the offensive line got some newness there, so you got to see how the offensive line gels, particularly early on.
Yeah.
And right now, I'm leaning towards the Highlanders, but we'll see.
What?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. You heard it from
That's tough for me to say that. Yeah.
They come with the Highlanders winning it. What's the score? Give us a score.
Well, I'm thinking 35-28.
35-28. So a close one. Keith, what was your prediction again?
I'm going with North Shore 42-21.
What was the score last year? Close to that, right?
It was 49-21, but it was 42-7 at halftime.
Ooh.
So the game was over pretty much at halftime.
I'm going to say it's not going to be over at halftime.
Right.
I'm going to say it's going to be in the 4th quarter. They can close it out.
Okay.
How does the new coach? How does the new coach play into this?
Well, obviously Willie Gatson, he's first year as the head coach, but he's been offensive coordinator, and he's also a North Shore alumnus.
Yes,
so he understands the culture. So I don't think much will change there.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be a drop.
I think he'll step in, and they'll just continue to go as they've been going.
Next man up.
Next coach up. Exactly.
Just like their mentality.
And there's a little extra pride for him because he went to North Shore as well. So I definitely don't think that would factor in.
And I know being an alumni, he's definitely not wanting the program to go down.
Oh yeah,
his watch.
It means something to him, right? Yeah, special.
Definitely means something to him. I know they have a lot of long talent over there with Chase Calicut.
Yeah.
He's going to be a safety at North Shore, probably an outside receiver as well. Yeah, he's definitely going to be a superstar. So they've got some talent out there. And the Woodlands, they got some talent as well. Where are they playing this game this year?
So it's going to be at Wood Forest Stadium.
Okay.
So that would be the Woodlands would be the home team. Yeah. So
man, that's going to be nice.
All right. So let's give game. I gave my game predictions. So Keith, what do you think?
He gave his game prediction 21-42 North Shore, right?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And he's saying it's not going to be over by half. It's going to be the 4th quarter.
Okay.
I hope it's not over by halftime. It's going to be boring if it is.
I don't think it will be. Not this year.
I'm going to come in and I'm going to say North Shore 42, the Woodlands 28.
Okay.
I think we'll.
All right.
And you might be right. I think Mabry's going to go off. Mabry's a really good quarterback.
Yeah.
And he's huge, and he can throw it a mile.
And he's got a new transfer in, Cornell X Jr.
Smart, knows how to read coverages.
Knows how to read coverages, and also a year older as well. The maturity factor is going to be there.
I would say this: don't forget about the physicality of the offensive line of the Woodlands. That's going to factor in.
That's true. That's true. Now, who's the Woodlands running game? Who's their running back?
So it's going to be Keandre Barker.
Okay.
He is the transfer. That's a Penn State commit.
Yes.
He's a 4-star running back.
Okay.
And then also in the preseason, they playing Cornell X also as a running back as well.
Wow. I didn't know
so they're kind of playing him all over.
But
once again, they have that offensive line that's really good and really, really physical. So I think that's going to factor in. Yeah. So we'll see.
Well, if everything goes as planned for the Woodlands, good running game, Cornell X, Mabry does his thing. I think he's going to have to throw off platform a few times. I think he's going to have to get some scrambling yards in there as well. He's going to almost have to be the Superman that they claim him to be, just like, what's the Jaguars quarterback he reminds me of so much?
Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence.
Why does he remind you of Trevor Lawrence?
Man, they look alike. They got the same hairstyle. They're 6'6". They're 200 and something pounds. I mean, if you put them side to side, you would think him and Mabry were brothers.
Yeah.
And shout out to the Matois family. They also have a kid by the name of Mac. Isn't that his name? His brother's name. He's at OU as well. His alumni. He's an alumni now. Plays guard for us. So shout out to the Matois family being an OU alum now.
I think the last thing for us to do, guys, is give our MVP predictions.
Okay.
But we can do from both teams. So if Woodlands wins, who would be the MVP? And if North Shore wins, who would be the MVP? Let's do it like that.
I think I'm gonna jump off the boat on this one first. Whomever wins the game, the quarterback is gonna walk away with the MVP.
Okay.
I think this is gonna be a story of two halves. The comeback of Caleb Bailey,
Okay.
but also the comeback of Mabry Matois. Because last year they really put it on him.
Right.
This year, Caleb Bailey's coming back.
From injury, yeah.
So both of them have a comeback story.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody loves a comeback story, right?
Know what?
I mean, everybody loves a
That's
comeback
right.
story. So with that being said, Keith, who you think is going to be the
You know, I'm trying hard to find a way to disagree with you or have a better idea, but, you know, I probably have to agree with you on that, Coach. I think it's going to be, if the Woodlands wins, it's going to be because Mabry went off.
Yes.
And if North Shore wins, it's going to be because Caleb went off, or, you know, Terrence Guillory or C.J. Barnes, you know, is unstoppable. So,
Or McCole Hardman has a great game, too.
yeah,
You know?
I mean, so, you know, I've really enjoyed watching C.J. and Terrence play with us for the last 3 years. And they played with us since 14U, I think.
Yeah.
So, those guys are both special. And I think that either one of those guys could be an MVP. You know, you could have just the three that I know, that, you know, Caleb, CJ, or Terrence, all three of those guys could be MVP.
No doubt.
So we'll have to see what happens. I'm fired up about the game. You know, we'll be there. We'll be walking
there,
you know?
on the sidelines.
So for me, I'm gonna go with the running game, i.e. the playmaker. So I'm gonna say DeAndre Hardiman for North Shore, because I feel like if they can generate the run game, he's gonna be the guy that does it, and then that will open up the passing game.
Yeah.
And I think for the Highlanders, I think Quanell X, having watched that playoff game last year, he was kind of the guy that set the tone for the Woodlands. And I think if they are to have a chance to beat North Shore, which I picked them to win the game, Quanell X needs to have a big game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's going to be the guy. So he'll be the MVP.
Now, I'm going to go off platform.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give a wild horse out there. And my wild horse prediction is Devin Sanchez.
Okay,
The
definitely.
reason why I say this is because if Mabry Matois doesn't go off, then Devin Sanchez is going to have something to say about that.
And Devin Sanchez might be the reason Mabry doesn't go off.
That's right. Oh,
Right.
yeah. He's a shutdown guy. That's for sure.
He's big time.
Yeah. So
Like, you don't even want to throw it to his side of the field.
Right.
That needs to be the first thing he sees. Where's he at? Where's Devin at? So
Right.
don't the other direction.
Right.
I remember last year in that game, they went away from Devin Sanchez and they threw the ball more so to Jacoby Davis' side. And Jacoby Davis walked away with a pick six out of that.
Yeah,
So
I remember that.
we're going to see who's the next corner up for North Shore.
Right.
You know, if they always got this next man mentality, next player up, next coach up.
Yeah.
Here it is. Who's the next corner
That's
to come
right.
out of North Shore? That's what I'm going to look for. As far as I say, my dark horse, wild horse prediction of MVP.
All right.
Right there.
Sounds good.
Well, hey, we thank y'all for joining us again for the Kb3 Sports Podcast. Look for us and look for the predictions to come out as well on Sundays.
On Sunday.
We'll have predictions for you. Do a recap to see if we're gurus or if we're garbage up here. I believe with the talent and the experience we have, we should fly on the side of gurus. So
All right.
thank you again. Thanks, Keith. Thanks, Zarek. Thank you all for joining in Kb3 Sports Podcast.